This is a lecture that I started to write, or I started to think about almost a year ago, but then it grew and I had a lot of chance to think about it through this year with Kara, and then this is the first time I'm presenting it in this form, such a big group. So, and I'm a pretty and undecisive person, so I have a couple of titles for this performance. The first one is objectophilia, and objectophilia is the term for sexual attraction towards objects. The second one is on design and depression, and that should be self-explanatory. And then the third one is Elephantine Workout, and that should take about like 80 slides to come around why I decided to give this title to this performance. Oh, sorry. And so I'll walk you through this lecture, going from like let's say going through like 5 objects that are design objects, like as being designed objects, like someone designed them at a certain point, and that I'm sure all of you have them, like almost done in your apartment or here, or have been in close contact with them. The first one is shoe. I think everyone has shoes. Now, I have to have a disclaimer first. All the facts that I bring up here are true, but true in the terms of what can be true now. So are things that are true following my understanding and following what interns tell me. And so, yeah, just bear that in mind. I started this research about a year and a half ago. It was Christmas, and my mom Skyped me. I was living in Sweden and she's living in Italy, where I'm from. And that's a selfie. She took it yesterday. I had to fake it. So it should be Christmas, and she's wearing some like heavy clothes, but it's actually sunny outside. So I'm sorry. That's the first. That was the disclaimer. I think. So she goes to this Christmas market and she calls me. It's like, oh, Bea, you have to. I have to talk to you about this Christmas market. It's like, fine, I have to study, I have to work. But finally I pick up the phone and she's very excited. And she's very excited because this town where she went, which is like 1.5 hour north of Venice in the Alps, had a mascot that year for their Christmas market. The mascot was an elephant. And it happens for some strange reason that my mom's name and the elephant name are the same. So my mom is called Adriana Soliman, and she's been like my teacher, my elementary teacher, so she's been mostly Maestra Soliman, the teacher Soliman, and the elephant is called Elephant Soliman. So then I started to be interested in this fact, and it's like I've never been really curious of ever being related to something that sounds strange concept to me, but like an elephant somehow makes sense. So I started to look into who this elephant was and why the town has a market called Soliman the Elephant, and why my mom has like a Christmas ball with an elephant in it. So I find out this story about this elephant is born in 1540, I believe, in Ceylon, and is named after Soliman the Magnificent. And somehow is brought to Portugal by John II of Portugal as a gift to his son. After a long trip, he comes to Portugal, and like a lot of pets, it's become too expensive, and well, it's an elephant, so it's pretty big, and it's very hard to maintain. So John decided to give it as a gift, and through this gift, of course, try to like fix some international relation and have the favor of other big powers in Europe. So I decided to send it to the Duke of Augsburg in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, so to Vienna. And it took the elephant about 10 years to go to Vienna. It passed through Spain and to North Italy, eventually to that little town where my mom went for a Christmas market, and finally arrives in Vienna in 1542. And if you see an elephant in art collection or in buildings around the period in the area, normally it should be this specific elephant that had at the time continues to be portrayed and so on. And so the elephant arrives in Vienna in 1542. I had a big crowd waiting for him. After 18 months, he dies. What happened is that the Archduke of Vienna basically have his skin stuffed and show it in his palace for a while, but eventually gets tired of it and decided to give him as a gift again, to get rid of it in some way. And so he wants to be a better friend with the Duke of Bavaria, which is now the south part of Germany, and decided to send the stuffed skin there. The stuffed skin was for a while shown in the palace, and then in the palace of Vienna, and then was shown in Munich in the museum. There, but after a while, eventually there were more popular things to show. So the elephant was stored in the basement, and it was basically forgotten for hundreds of years. And I know this museum has a big basement as well, so I'm just keep that in mind. So it spends there pretty long time. It's the Second World War, and Munich, it's been bombed, and the museum is bombed too, so part of the collection is damaged and lost. And finally, when someone goes and clean out, I believe, they find this elephant, which is actually pretty intact, although it's of course dead and it's a piece of old skin, but it's just damaged by the weather. And what happened is that with the skin is being sold to make shoes out of it. So there are probably a couple of pairs of shoes made of Solomon the elephant around somewhere. The one below. So now we're in 2013, and this might be Badula, a young elephant that suffers from some sort of food disorder, like early age arthritis or some sort of sore foot disorder, I'm not sure. Well, basically in 2013 there is a tweet on Twitter that says that Nike made this special shoe for an elephant called Badula, and the shoes are made in the skin, they sort of replicate the skin of the elephant, but made of another animal. They were nice about that. And there is a Nike pink sign that has been taken away in this picture. Now, I don't know how true this is, but the same year Nike also launched this elephant runner, like a pair of runners that are somehow printed in a sort of elephant print texture and have like pink details. And now we're in Delphi, Greece. You might know Delphi is still very big and a tourist attraction. It was very big in classic Greece because of its oracle. So and it was also very rich because of it. So people would come from all over the classic world to get like divination about the future. But in a certain period, it wasn't doing so well because of a famine. So a lot of people were hungry, and it was the city was in a very, very bad condition. And the king, that's the one up there, decided to help out and give barley and food, but just to the rich family. And of course, not just the rich were the one who needed food. So one day, one kid called Karila walks up to the king, walks into a palace and just asks for food. And the king is very angry, so he just took one of his shoe off and struck the little girl with his shoe. And the kid, Karila, was an orphan, and she just thought that was the way to do it. And she got very ashamed, and she started running out of the city and found an olive tree, I believe, and just hanged herself with a belt of her dress. Now the oracle Pythia down there, she got to know through her practice that the gods were really angry about what happened, and then a terrible things would happen to the city if the king was not taking care of the kid's memory and remember it some way. And the king, of course, he didn't have good ideas from the beginning, so he just thought of doing a festival every 7 years. So there's been for hundreds of year festival that now is pretty forgotten, actually, a festival in the memory of this child. And as you know, I was in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, with Kara and the group during spring break, and we were visiting Oakland's cemetery in the city, and I saw this grave, and this is the grave of Olivette Smith Allison, and she was also an orphan who, from a very early age, was with her brother had to stay in this house. And finally, she stayed so long, and she was really committed to it, so she became the director in the 70s. And somehow, for some reason, she also was extremely into elephants and collecting elephants, so that when she died in 2010, she was remembered with the elephant-like headstone. And this is another elephant. Maybe some of you have heard about it. It's called Topsy. For unknown reason, it's called Topsy as the young slave in Uncle Tom's Cabin book. And Topsy is born in Southeast Asia, but was kind of smuggled in the US, sort of like secretly brought to the US, and then presented as first American-born elephant. And she didn't have a good life. Her keeper fed her with whiskey and burned cigarettes on her trunk, so she just killed him. And she was condemned to work forced labor in Coney Island. She wasn't really lucky, because the keeper in Coney Island was also very annoying and kept stabbing her with a fork. I don't think that's exactly the fork that my source talks about, but that's what I figured out in my internet search. So she's brought to the limit where she attacked this new keeper again, and so she's sentenced to death. But how to kill such a big elephant? So a lot of people were talking about it, and at the same time, very close to here in Edison, New Jersey, I think. Someone called Edison, which is suspicious. Maybe it's not true. That was figuring out a lot of inventions and wanted to be the first in a lot of things. And one was the electric current, the other one was moving camera, and it wasn't the only one trying to figure out the electric current. Someone else was Tesla, and they had a very competitive moment where Edison was pushed to show how bad Tesla's system was by electrocuting animals. So he saw a big chance there, in the sense that it was a huge animal to kill, and it would show how bad his competitive system was. So he offered his help. And he made a system to bring a lot of AC alternate current to Coney Island, and then he also tailor-made a pair of shoes in wood and copper thread, so that the elephant would be surely dead when the show was over. And it's a show because Coney Island was doing quite bad at the time, so they actually promoted as a show and made people pay for a ticket. So in 1903, Topsy was killed, and as I said, Edison was figuring out a lot of things, and one other thing was the video camera. So he actually decided to videotape the whole thing, and now you can find this on YouTube, and I think it's, in my opinion, is one of the first like live documented violence gone viral in some way in 1903. And so you saw an elephant become a shoe, and then an elephant that became a shoe can become a vase. What's next? Oh yeah, and so this is another elephant. It could be Badula if the treatment didn't go right. I'm not sure. And these are popular vases in the Victorian era that are umbrella holders or jars. So I'm not sure if the two pictures are related, but someone's had to have this feed. And this, we're in 1882, I think. This is a surgeon's daughter, as it is remembered. There is even a gallery with that name. Well, it's actually, surgeon is the painter, and has never had his daughters. The daughters are Edward Boyd's daughters. He is a very rich American man who spent part of his life in Paris and spent his spare time shooting elephant, I have heard. And he got this portrait of his daughters in this apartment in Paris. And so you see the little girl on the carpet holds a doll, and the doll is named after a right-wing politician. And I'm not sure if the daughter named the doll herself, because she seems very young to be into politics. It's quite sad, the story of this daughter, or in a way it's normal. None of them got married, and all of them suffer from mental instability or different issues, and their mothers, who were very popular, was very ashamed of them. The painting was then brought to Boston Museum of Art, together with the vases that are in the paintings. And these vases are Chinese vases that are very much bigger compared to the standard. They're made in China, but after a European model. And when these vases were brought to the museum, they actually weren't clean and weren't empty, and they contained some stuff. So they contained some coins and a tennis ball and some cigars and a pink ribbon and a half-eaten donut. This is 2000, I think. I am about 10, and I spend a lot of time in front of the computer, like that much better. And I received this email saying someone is trying to sell these cats that are put at a very early age into some vases called bonsai kitten, and they're then shaped into these vases. So I got really I got really engaged with it. And, it was also in English, so I didn't really know that. Now I found out that this was one of the first internet talks, and it was also a sort of email chain that was sent just to non-English speaking countries. So I was in Italy, so that's where I found it, to be able to collect money and so on. This wasn't true. And this is, we're in France in 1967, I think. This is a film by the director Enrique Romer. It translates like something like The Collector, although in French is the she collector, the collectioners, the female collector. And it tells a story of two guys, Daniel and Adrian. Daniel is a painter and Adrian is an art dealer. So they have like a very dandy sort of lifestyle. They're what we could call today like art bros. And a third friend, of course, Rodrigo owns a big villa out of the city in the countryside in France, and like something that we say like the cabin upstate or something like that, and offers friends to spend time there. So Daniel and Adrian go there, and it turns out that the villa was double booked, and someone else is there, is Heide, and she's a young woman who has a number of affairs and sexual relationship, and she throughout the movie looks very apathetic. Adrian and Daniel are attracted to her, but also despise her throughout the movie and hate her. And they try to match her up with a famous art dealer, American art dealer, who was passing through south of France at that period. So she goes and sees him, and then she finds this Chinese vase in the collection, and that is happened to be the most expensive and precious thing in the collection, and she just breaks it. And it slaps her. Nothing has happened in the movie, I think, as I remember. Chairs. So an elephant turns into a shoe, that turns into a vase, that turns into a chair. That's very simple. That's the same object that we see before, the vase, just in stool version. But also, if you remember Solomon, so his skin was sold to become shoe, but his bones were also scattered around. And I actually remember now, been thinking about it now, about when I was like 5 or 6, I would go to the mountains, and then there was this church that had this big bone that said it was like a dinosaur bone, and I was really into dinosaurs, so I would go there as much as possible. And then I need to figure out that that is actually Solomon the elephant, because this is a chair made out of Solomon the elephant that is in a cloister in Germany, the one above. And this also, so three-legged chair, stool. This also is the stool where Pizia the oracle used to sit. And so I don't know if you know about how that worked, but I was there this summer. It's basically a temple where actually like a room digged below ground, where she sat in this sort of bucket stool, and she was foreseeing the future, and people say she was high, and we wouldn't if had to sit there all day, honestly. And this is Dumbo. I'm sure you were thinking about Dumbo as soon as I said this was about elephants. And this is a stool that normally is represented in movies when an elephant is scared or something. And in the same way, this is from Tom and Jerry, Mommy Two Shoes. We never see the head as a very racist figure jump in the same sort of stool when it's scared. And this is IKEA. This is Alvar Aalto, actually. No, this is IKEA. No, Alvar Aalto. Sorry, they're exactly the same. So this is Alvar Aalto stool, three-legged as well, from the 30s. And this is IKEA stool, so it's very possible to have the same exact stool because it was like $10. At least everyone has it in Sweden and in Europe. And yeah, it's it's present in everyone's house and it's stackable. And as for legs, I know where if there was like 3 legs, I know where the 4th went. But so now we're into next chapter. Belts. So an elephant went into a shoe, they went into a vase, they went into a chair, they went into a belt. I think this was a bit forced, honestly. So if you think of the girl Karila before, who ran towards a tree to hang herself out of shame, the tree probably was an olive tree because we're in Greece, but if this story was set in Scandinavia, it would be a birch tree. And then from that tree you could do something like the chair. But she used this belt that fastened her dress. It's called chiton. Someone else uses belts in original ways. This is Sadabe in Tokyo in 1936. She as a complicated history, she was assaulted as a kid, and then she became very untreatable for her family, and she was sold to become a geisha, and then she was also untreatable in the geisha house and became a prostitute. And but when she was around, she fell in love with this man who was married, and Ishida, his name, and they had like a very passionate time. So that she decided to choke him with her belt one day after having sex, and she played that trick some other times, and it looked a little bit excited, so she did it again and she killed him. She also cut off his penis and his testicles and hide it in her sleeve for days. And she goes around with it, and with the blood she writes something on his leg that's translated as something like, "Me, Abe, and you are alone." So she goes around with a sleeve full of these things, and then she's found. And she's famous to treat the police very nicely and be very happy when they finally recognize her, and smile towards the camera. And just when people ask, why did you do it? She just answered, "I really love them." And around less than 10 years after, still in Tokyo, this is a famous child book called The Faithful Elephants. It's taken from a real story happening in 1943, I think, in Ueno Zoo in Tokyo. Since there was a threat of airplane bombing in the city, and then that would mean that some dangerous animal could escape from the zoo and go around and go wildly around the city. There was a letter that said that all the animals in the zoo had to be killed. So most of the animals were being strangled, but the elephants wouldn't really die, so they were just starved to death. And these 3 elephants became then the protagonists of this famous book. And they kept doing tricks to get food until the last moment. Also, after this happened, and I think maybe people felt pretty guilty about it, they also took one of the military in the Air Force, the American Air Force, and closed him naked inside one of the cages in the zoo for people to see him. I'm not sure if you look like that. And then we're again in Greece. This is a bit complicated because the names are all very similar. So there is this, in mythology there is this person, Karia was a young girl who, to escape from a rape, becomes an oak tree and gives the name to a town. And in the town, other young girls meet every year to sing and dance, and they're called the Maiden of Korai. after her. So what happened is that these girls were playing and dancing. You see the picture down there. And suddenly they were really scared. Someone seemed to want to attack them. So they were really proud and they ran towards the tree. There was an oak tree, the name was Cora, and hanged themselves with the belt of the kitten again. So how I know this? Because I study architecture, and this is the story that brought this architectural element into existence. And these are the caryatides. This is the Parthian, but you see them, they're like an archetype, so wherever you see a female figure carrying the weight of a temple, that is one of these figures, and probably comes from that story. So columns, it explains itself. So this is how you put on a kitten, from what I found online, and so you fold it and put on a belt. But if you had to take off a belt for some reason, then you come with have this opposite diagram. And let's look at the second picture. So you have like something without belt. So for some reason you have to take off your belt, and you have your dress hanging, and that's what. Following my theory, made this other more famous archetype of columns into being, and those are somehow representing like a drapage of a dress, but they lost their heads and lost their arm, lost their feet. And some example of that, this is Fantasia from 1940, 1949. Then this is the dance of the hours, where these elephants dance around columns. So this is the same Ionic or Doric columns. And again, probably thought about Dumbo. We saw people going towards a tree for a certain reason. Also, Dumbo ends up being a tree. And if you remember the story, why he wakes up in a tree, is that he's been drinking a lot the night before. But my question is like, why, and he sees a lot of pink elephants, and Sandra actually made a cover of this part of the cartoon where the pink elephant comes and dances around. And why was it drunk? I actually don't really remember the movie, but I think it was just very sad. And if you didn't understand why Dumbo was very sad, to this point of the lecture, I'll try to explain that more now. Take again the diagram from before, and now go to the last, so up reverse order and go to the last of the pictures. So the dress goes away totally. Then you have like a naked, sleek sort of column. Something that the modernists like to do a lot. This is Le Corbusier Bill-Savoy, for example, the pilotis basically, it's that. And so, just the column remains the same, but the fabric and what reminds of the actual origin of the columns is gone. So basically it's a stick, and you see the elephant face we saw before also end up holding a lot of sticks inside. Also, this somehow also has to do with stick. This is elephants, it's current in Thailand. Elephants are able to paint, and how do they do it? They basically, I'll explain later, but like people go and look at the elephants and like buy painting or lines, and they seem very talented, and they're called elephant abstraction, something like that. And they paint something like, this is the masterpiece, it's like spring on my step, letting my hair down, forever partners, waiting for you. So to be able to do this, the elephant always talk through a stick that pushed them and turns their movement. And so you see this elephant is painting his own portrait. And for me this looks very much like this. Also I don't know how she's holding the selfie stick because she's also and so that's what happens when sticks lose their fabric and their clothes and all that. And someone tried to cover that up. It was ashamed to use a selfie stick in public and have that there, but that didn't become so popular. So there are like actually, regardless is trying to make this something, another design. There are a lot of bear sticks around, and this is the fascist, where fascism takes its name. It's just actually like a bundle of sticks or wooden sticks together. And this is the symbol. And this also is like another neoclassicism, basically it's taking something very old and bringing it back, and you know where we are, maybe. This is the White House. And we're in the 80s, 1986, I think. Reagan also received elephant as a gift by the president of Sri Lanka and Jayato. The elephant actually lived just for 2 weeks. As soon as he as soon as he comes to the White House, he stops to eat and dies for a very mysterious reason. Yeah. And this is Mussolini on an elephant as well. This is also like a bear stick. It's Mussolini's obelisk in Rome. This is another obelisk in Rome I'm much more interest on. I think Cara took a picture of that when she was in Rome. And this is Bernini's obelisk of Minerva, I think that's the translation. It's an Egyptian obelisk on top of an elephant. This has to do with some book that was popular at that time of someone trying to get his love, to love him back through going around this greenland, and there are a bunch of elephants apparently. But somehow Bernini got to do this design, and I had a lot of troubles with the neighbor. There was this monk from this, not a monk, something more like a abbey or something like that, from this monastery just across the street. So I made sure that this monk, every time he woke up in the morning, the first thing he would see was the elephant ass. And also I made sure to give the elephant something that, if the elephant would have fingers, would be like a middle finger gesture. Also, I got to know this term the other day, elephant in a China store, and I looked it up, and that's it. And what happened? Why there would be something strange, and why? What happened if an elephant goes into a China store and it breaks vases? I guess. So there are other. So keeping on the thread of porcelain, Reagan also got another elephant that's much more manageable, and it's made of porcelain. And everyone's very happy. And I figured out that actually this is something very close to here. It happened in Trenton, New Jersey. It's a porcelain studio called Cybis. And it does things that you see, maybe you know about it, I don't know. And that's the kind of design that they do. And it's actually started with an artist called Borisław Cybis from Lithuania that moved in 1939, again, the year where Fantasia was released, and 2 years after Alessandra cut the penis out of her lover, and so on. Well, he came from Lithuania to the US to do a murales for the World Fair in New York, and stayed. But before moving to the US, it was that's him on the side. It was a gymnast in Lithuania, and I also had a period as a gymnast when I was a kid. That's my best trick. No, I was really bad actually. But these are elephant poses from Fantasia. This is the elephant pose in yoga. If you're depressed, I told you you should go to yoga, and I did. And this is the elephant pose following the Kama Sutra, I think, or some website. And so that makes sense. We're again in Coney Island in 1885. A big elephant is built. This architect James Lafferty built this Elephantine Colossus that is a brothel, and yeah, works as a brothel. And probably, if you think of the years, Topsy the elephant, who was working as a forced labor in Coney Island, probably is working to build this up. And after a few years, it burns. But there is another one that survived, and is in Atlantic City, New Jersey again. And from the same architect, is called Lucy the Elephant, and was built on the shore for a real estate agent to walk up there with possible clients and show the properties around the fast-growing city. And I'm not sure why it's called Lucy the Elephant. It's also said it's clearly like a male elephant, but eventually it's still there. You can take tours. I haven't been yet. But something happened in 2016, and is that Lucy ran for president, and this is actually true. I can come something like that. But she actually didn't win. So but I came about that time in the States, and it just didn't lead to the best time ever. And as about the same time, so it's like day and night mood. I didn't do this picture, but somehow it makes sense. I found myself driving as a passenger a lot. I don't drive, and how could I have to drive here? So I sat a lot in the passenger seat during this time, and this, you can imagine, is New Jersey somehow. And yeah, this is a picture from the interior of the car and me. And there is, so I think all these things led me to a very dark spot. And about the same time, there was a CD playing in the car. There was Pavarotti's Greatest Hits, and I've heard it before. It's like a collection of Pavarotti's best thing. And it struck me one song, the number 13. Every time I heard it, I became very, like, even more sad than I was. And after a while, it's hard for me to hear the Italian words, but after a while I realized what they were saying, and I looked it up, what it was. And that ended up being something from an opera called L'Africain, the African, from Giacomo Meyerbeer. Actually, it's a story, so we're back in Portugal. It's a story of someone like John II, a bit later, that wants to try out to conquer new lands, and gets it's Vasco da Gama, probably you've heard about him, and tries to go towards somewhere, and finally think he's going to Africa, but he's actually just going towards India all the time, and it's just this big misunderstanding, and someone who's enslaved falls in love with him and helps him out towards this land. But I can just play the refrain.
Tu appartieni appartieni a me, a me, a me, a me.
So then number 14 was another song. It's called Why Do You Wake Me Up? Something like that in French. It made a lot of sense after this one, so I'll play it. If we can turn off the lights somehow. This one, otherwise it's fine. And yeah, it's okay. The opposite way.
Off.
Off.
Oh.
Thank you.